Hi, everybody. We are live on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitter in Google Hangouts with a panel of housing experts here ready to answer some questions about home buying, the home buying process. And we're looking forward to giving you some really helpful information, usable information. If you're thinking about home ownership, have any questions, we certainly want to give you some answers today. And in addition to the questions that we're going to be asking each of the panelists, you also have an opportunity to ask your own questions throughout the program. You can, those of you watching on YouTube Live, can use the chat box feature at any time during the program to ask your own questions, to submit those as we go along. And if you like Twitter and you're following along on Twitter, we encourage you to use the hashtag NFCC tips and BECU chat. So that's for those of you on Twitter, NFCC tips and BECU chat are the hashtags that you can use to follow along with the live discussion there on Twitter. So I'd like to introduce you now to our panelists, and we're really fortunate to be joined by three terrific experts on housing. John Smith is the Senior Manager of Mortgage Sales at BECU. Rod Griffin is the Director of Public Education at Experian. And Matt Reby is the General Counsel for the NFCC. And I'd like to go back to John and give him a minute to just introduce himself, and then we'll go to the rest of our panelists for the same. John?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. BECU's a cooperative, a credit union that's here in the Seattle land area, and I've been with BECU about 6 years in the industry, here about 23 years in the mortgage space. So it's just a wonderful time. We enjoy helping people reach their financial goals, and particularly my group helps through home ownership. So thank you. Good to be here today.
Thanks, John. And now over to you, Rod.
Yeah, Bruce, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm Director of Consumer Education for Experian, and my job is to help people become more informed about credit reporting and credit scoring. And that's what we want to do at Experian, is help you use your credit reports and credit scores to achieve your financial goals. Obviously, mortgages are a big one. So buying a house, and how do we help you achieve that dream? John has me by a couple of years. I've been in the credit reporting industry now for 21 years. So been around a little bit. I hope picked up a little bit along the way that I can share, but we'll look forward to the chat this afternoon.
Great. Thanks, Rod. And Matt?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Reby. I'm General Counsel for National Foundation for Credit Counseling, NFCC. We are a nationwide network of nonprofit financial counseling agencies here to serve you as an individual and just have you speak with a trained and certified expert to help you through issues about whether you're a current homeowner or you're looking to purchase a home, whether you've got some questions about outstanding credit card debt, or if you need to figure out a game plan for your student loans and what makes sense for you. So we're available 24/7. You can find us at nfcc.org.
Great. Thanks, Matt. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some questions that we have prepared for each of our panelists. The format here, I'm going to ask a specific question to one of the individual panelists, and then we'll throw it out to the rest of the panelists for their opinion. And I want to start with Matt. One of the things that we found out from our 2018 Consumer Financial Literacy Survey, which was sponsored by BECU, was that there is a lot of interest in home ownership. Some of the responses that we got from the survey indicated that. But I want to talk to you a little, or ask you a little bit about what your advice is for potential home buyers. What is your advice?
Yeah, so home buying is a complicated process, and there are a lot of factors to consider. We're going to talk through them today. Everything from credit, savings, and then how you're going to afford and maintain the home over time. So we'll talk about more about those today, but really what's important is to form a game plan for you as an individual. And how you're going to get on a path to making sure you qualify for a loan and how you can sustain it. And a housing counselor can really help you with that. And so we'll talk about the various steps and what they can help you with.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Any other advice from you, Rod or John?
I don't think so at this point. Ready to jump in.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Well, Rod, I'll turn the next question over to you. Poor credit history was one of the top 6 barriers reported in the top 6 barriers to homeownership reported in our 2018 Consumer Financial Literacy Survey. So I wanted to ask you about your thoughts about how the credit score factors into buying a home.
Yeah. And the short answer is it factors in immensely. Credit reports and credit scores, as a result, are one of the key factors in being able to qualify for a mortgage loan and to get the best terms and best rates when you do qualify. So understanding how credit reports work, what credit scores do, and how they work is incredibly important. And it's the thing to understand is that a credit score is a financial resource that lenders use as a tool to evaluate your credit history, to determine your ability to repay a debt, in this case, a mortgage. So to look at your credit report, they'll use a score to evaluate how strong that credit history is and whether it indicates you'll be able to repay that mortgage or not. So it's a very objective tool to help determine your credit worthiness. And so planning ahead, being able to use that credit history, knowing what's in it, will help you get the mortgage you want for the home you want at the rates you want and the terms you want. So that's why we're so excited to be here today, to get to share some of that information.
Great. Thanks, Rod. I want to move into from the credit score discussion into the documentation that's required for applying for a mortgage. A lot of people hear so much about the fact that you have to, bring your documents in with a wheelbarrow because that's how much that you have to provide to the lender. John, talk to us a little bit about what documents are actually required.
Well, what kind of wheelbarrow do you have? But I agree. Documentation is so important. And going to the credit, there's always been several pieces to obtaining a mortgage. And they deal with really the credit, income, assets, property, and the program. The 2 primary ones that the borrower, the member who's applying for the mortgage, must assist with is verification of their income and documenting their assets. So depending on what type of income you have, maybe you're a self-employed person and your income comes through that source. You're generally going to need 2 years of tax returns. If you're an LLC, limited liability company, or a corporate structure, generally you might need your business tax returns as well, depending on what percentage of that business you own. So tax returns, 2 years if you're self-employed for yourself and your business. On the other side, an individual who is an hourly employee or salaried employee, generally pay stubs and W-2s are what's going to be needed. If we're dealing with bonus income or something of that nature, overtime, maybe there's a little more that we have to ask, that variable type of income. And we've heard others ask too about, multiple streams of income that you have. Maybe it's part-time jobs that you have and you've got 4 or 5 different sets of income. The key to that is, depending on, it really doesn't matter how many sources, we just have to verify them. And generally a 2-year history showing that you've received that income and then the ability to prove that it's going to continue. That's really what's necessary. So income documentation, and then you go to your assets. Down payment is primarily what we're trying to support. And you're going to need to show 2 months worth of history of where those funds have been and where they are. That could be your bank statements for the last 2 months, checking, savings. Maybe it's a 401k or you're selling some stock or other items. But generally a 2-month history to show those funds, where they've been and really how you got them. We need to trail that information. Income and assets.
Great, thanks, John. And that leads into another question that I have, and this one is for Matt, because a lot of times people don't know what they don't know, and if they're not sure what to bring or what's important in the documentation piece, that might be something a housing counselor can assist with. Matt, what are some of the things that housing counselors can help people do?
Yeah, so what a counseling session and counselors exist to do is help you establish your goals and develop an action plan to accomplish those. So any counseling session, housing counseling is typical for this, we'll start with goals and level setting and figure out where you are and where you want to be. From there, we'll go into a financial review and take a look at your entire financial profile. So we're going to look at your sources of income, your current debts, and from there, develop a budget and figure out exactly where you are today and what you're spending money on today. And that can be a bit intimidating, but what's really cool about it is forming a budget is actually quite empowering, and it allows you to sort of keep track of where all of your money is going. I think, many of us, we sort of have a general sense, and we know how much money is sort of left over at the end of the month when certain bills are due. But it's really empowering to get an expert to dive into it with you and figure out exactly where your money's going. And from there, you can develop a specific action plan for achieving whatever your goal is. And whether it's home ownership, it might be a near-term goal or one that's a little further off if you've got some other things you got to take care of first. Maybe you've got some credit card debt that you want to manage and figure out how you can account for that. Maybe you've got student loans and you want to make sure that you've got those accounted for properly so that you're in position to buy a home. So a counselor can help you consider all these different pieces, how they fit together, and form a plan for you that makes sense so that you can meet those goals.
Thanks, Matt. And in terms of some of the challenges that people perceive or see that in front of them that prevent them from pursuing home ownership, down payment has been an issue that's on the forefront. A lot of people are saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't have enough money for a down payment. What can I do?" And in fact, in our survey, our 2018 financial literacy survey, which is available at nfcc.org, I'm going to take a look at all the results there. Limited housing options within the budget were specifically called out as a barrier to home ownership, particularly for adults between the ages of 18 and 34 and 35 to 44. So, John, what if somebody has limited resources for a down payment? Are there any options there?
Yes, and that is a great question, and one that we often have to help people walk through that process. One big source that people are finding is gift funds through family members, maybe mom or dad or some member of your family who's able to help you with the down payment. There are other programs available, depending on what state and your local jurisdiction may have some resources, down payment assistance programs, and we encourage you to look into all of those. Other lenders have down payment, first-time down payment programs. And if you were asking us at BECU, I would say we have that. So we have a down payment assistance program for first-time home buyers. This year, we have decided to give away $1 million and have already begun that process. We're well on our way to doing that. So if you need down payment assistance, my encouragement is ask questions. Begin the process with asking your lender or that housing counselor that maybe you've been working with. They can also be a great resource for down payment assistance. BECU, though, we have a down payment assistance program, and we encourage you to check us out. BECU.org is a great place to learn lots of things about home ownership and that down payment process.
Great. Thanks, John. And I have a follow-up. In addition to the down payment, what are some other upfront costs that people need to consider?
Yeah, and depending on what you're truly accomplishing, maybe you're buying a home that is an older home and you want to be sure that it's sound structurally. You might get an inspection on that home. So having the funds available for that inspection process up front is important, and that's over and above your down payment that you're going to need, or closing cost as well that you're going to need to add on top of your down payment. Things such as your appraisal, and you may need an appraisal deposit before you close on your loan or before the loan even gets started. Sometimes people are building homes, which is becoming more and more common, construction loans. So you will need things like a feasibility study possibly, or plans that you need to have drawn up. There are a couple of things that you just want to be aware of over and above your down payment that you may have sitting in the bank. So just be aware there could be other expenses.
Okay. Thanks, John. Anything else to add, Matt? Rod?
Not right now, no.
No, I think John covered it. Yeah.
All right. The next question I have is from Matt. rising home prices are a concern, especially in particular regions of the country and in different metropolitan areas. In fact, the 2018 Financial Literacy Survey indicated that people that live in the West are the ones that are most likely to bemoan the increasing home prices and the more competitive home buying market. I imagine, especially for those in places like Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and other city, does your advice for homebuyers differ from city to city?
Well, yes. So as I said earlier, housing counseling is always going to be specific to your unique individual situation, and your real estate market is going to be one of the primary factors there. And you listed some high cost markets. On the East Coast, we've got some as well: DC, New York, LA on the West Coast. Lots of hot housing markets to consider. So, but one thing to think about though is that typically it's not just home prices that are high in these markets; it's rents as well. And one thing that people may not realize is that in many cases, your monthly mortgage payment could be the same or in many cases lower than what you're paying in rent right now. So a housing counselor can still help you figure out exactly, all right, how can I get a down payment together? What are some of those local down payment assistance programs? Are there lenders with down payment assistance programs, like John was mentioning earlier? And are there ways that it's realistic for me in my own market? And you might be surprised; it's more achievable than you think.
Okay. That's good advice, and I guess that goes to show you that if you just because you think because of where you're living that you're priced out of the market, you may be able to homeownership may be possible. It's just a matter of getting an full assessment of your situation.
That's right.
At Experian, do you see any trends in home buying or foreclosure that we should be aware of?
Actually, the news is good. We're seeing homeownership increase. We're seeing foreclosures decrease or have been over the last several years. So that's really positive news. We just did a recent study and a report that showed that Hispanic homeownership is increasing for the first time. So really seeing some positive things. There are some things to watch out for, though, as well. The home prices are climbing again. So always worry about it when you see home prices start to skyrocket. They're not quite, they haven't launched yet, but the afterburners are about to kick in potentially, and we're seeing that heat up. So concerned a little bit there, but by and large, people are doing really well. We have a report about the 17 states with the lowest mortgage debt. So you might consider moving to some of those states. West Virginia is one, Tennessee, Louisiana. The odd thing is that a number of those states also have the lowest credit scores on average in the country. So bit of a trade-off there. But it's, we're seeing some really kind of good news. There's also some hints of things that might be a little concerning. I've seen some things in the last few months that look a bit like some of the creative mortgage loans that we saw during the height of the bubble. Deep subprime kinds of targeted consumers who may not be in a position to own a home. Haven't seen the craziness that we saw then, but starting to see some of those kinds of mortgages that might cause a little concern. But by and large, the news is good right now.
Okay.
I can tell you that people are moving to Texas.
Well, I guess that's good news for Texas, but it's good that the news is generally okay. But I guess as you pointed out, there are a few things to keep a little bit of an eye on right now, though. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you, Rod. Matt, how is home buying different this year than in previous years?
Yeah, well, it sort of continues on with what Rod was saying. We are in a bit of a heated market right now, and so when that happens, typically you've got rising interest rates, and I believe earlier today the Fed announced that they were raising interest rates again. So look for mortgage rates to tick up. That might have a slight effect on the home prices because people are really looking at overall affordability and what they can afford on a monthly basis. So sometimes those even out, but obviously rising rates are a concern. And when in that type of environment, again, as Rod mentioned, you see all sorts of opportunists and new ways of financing loans. Sometimes that's good, but you really got to be careful and you got to be wary about who it is that you're working with. There's a lot of non-bank lenders that are emerging there. And again, sometimes those can be great opportunities, but sometimes you got to be a little wary. I don't think we're going to go back to quite where we were in 2006, 7, 8 with the no doc ninja loans or anything like that. But you always want to be careful. And so again, working with a housing counselor, working with an expert can help you make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation.
Okay, that's good points. Rod, data breaches have been in the news a lot recently, and how have those data breaches affected how often people are checking their credit report, or having an impact on their own consumer behavior?
Yeah. That may be the one positive of a data breach, is it raises people's awareness and causes them to really engage with the credit reporting companies and check those credit reports. Not as much as we'd like. It's kind of surprising that not the numbers that you would suspect, the numbers of people aren't checking their reports as much as you would hope, but they are checking more. They're learning what's in that report, how it works. They're making sure that they're working with us to ensure that the information is accurate, that there's no sign of fraud. And sadly, we don't see the volume of data breaches decreasing anytime soon. The criminals are still out there, and there's very creative people, sadly, and always looking for ways to steal information. And information is as important now as cash. They're stealing information, not money these days. And trying to fight that, Experian takes it extremely seriously and does everything we can to protect the information that we maintain and that we're stewards over. So it's a scary thing, breaches, but it is helping people to engage with us. And so I guess that's the positive. We're seeing it tick up a bit.
And the raised awareness about protecting personal information. I mean, all of that, I guess, is at least a somewhat positive byproduct of all the terrible things that have happened.
Yeah, and that's what we want at Experian. We believe that it's incredibly important that you work with us. We want you to be part of that process. I think John had said, our goal, the goal of the bank or the credit union, is to say yes to people, and our goal is to help the lenders say yes and to help people make that connection. And working together is the best way we can do that. So you need to get that report. Don't be afraid of it. I see people always tell us, kind of joke that I ask people if they've gotten their credit reports when I do these, presentations, and the heads go down and they shake their head. So why not? Because I don't want to know what's in it. And you can't do anything about it until you know what's there.
Right.
It's probably not as bad as you think. But getting that report, step one in that planning and preparation for getting that mortgage. So get it, know what's there, and work with us, because we all want the answer to be yes.
Yeah, saying yes is good, and as you said, the job of the credit union is and the mortgage lenders to say that's what they want to do. They want to say yes. John, why should somebody consider buying a home through a credit union versus some of the other options that are out there?
Yeah, that is a great thing, and I'm sure if you checked with your credit union in your local market, says it's the secret sauce. And I think it's everywhere. The secret sauce is our people. I think that's the number one thing. We're real people, and we get to be empowered to be real people. We're encouraged to be real people when we come to work every day. I mean, as a father, a husband, I have my father who lives in the same city as I do, an elderly father. We're people. And when we sit down with the individual across the table from us, we bring all of that experience to answer their questions. And that's a good thing. Just be real. But along with that, I mean, most lenders have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, adjustable rate loans, and so on. But that touch, that personal touch, is the key. And you'll find that difference at BECU, along with our mortgage advisors. So we have and we dedicate a specific person to work with you on your home loan. We have fewer fees, and that's by design. We want to be a place where we educate our members to reach their financial goals. So we keep costs at a minimum. Another great thing is that we simply provide realtors who they can work with, a set of realtors who are professionals in their specific marketplace. So no matter where you're looking for a home, we do the best to connect you with somebody who's an expert right in the neighborhood you're searching for. And you can go to our website, becu.org, and search for a home, just like you're on the MLS or a multiple listing service to find a home that fits your need. Anything that you need to deal with the mortgage, I think we can do it for you through BECU. And other credit unions have the same kind of flavor. So go knock on the door, see who's there, and see what you find. Credit unions are a good place to do business.
Right. That's great. And if you can't not physically knock on the door, knock on the website.
Exactly.
Right. Well, we had a few technical issues earlier, and I know we're up against it on time, so I'm going to move through. We may not have time to get to every question, but I do want to turn back to you, John, and ask if there are any specific generations that are dominating the housing market right now.
Yeah, and we have found that the millennial group, they're out there in strong force looking to buy homes right now.
Mm-hmm.
Time to move away from the old place, wherever that might be, but they're out in the marketplace. We do find that they're having challenges with that down payment, and that's why it's so important for us to have programs and others who can help fill that need right now. But that group is out there, and they just need our support, need education, need the ability to talk to an individual. And at BECU and other places, we do exactly that.
Okay, great. And Rod, where can those millennials and others who are interested in homeownership go to obtain a copy of their credit report before they talk to a lender?
You can go to www.annualcreditreport.com. That's the free report under federal law. You can get a free report from each of the 3 national credit reporting companies once every 12 months. So it's not calendar year, it's once every 12 months. So if you get your report today, you'll have to wait until this date next year to get it free again. So great place there. Experian has an app. You can get a free report and score. There are lots of places you can get free reports. If you need to dispute with Experian, you think something may be inaccurate, go to experian.com/disputes, and we'll provide a free report if you don't already have one as well.
Right. But the main thing is get the report, look at it
report
before you talk to the lender.
Yeah.
And before
at least 3 to 6 months in advance, because it can take some time to resolve any issues. And if you need to take steps to improve that credit score to be able to qualify, you want to allow time to do that.
Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. And Matt, what resources are there for people who are having a hard time making their mortgage payments if they're currently in a home, but their home ownership is in jeopardy?
Yeah. Well, there are a number of resources. Thankfully, this is something that housing counseling agencies have a good amount of experience with. Thankfully, we're not seeing nearly as much of it now as we were in a number of years ago. But this is something that we are trained and here to help people with if they are having trouble. There are a number of options available, specifically from your lender and from your servicer to help you out. If you are having trouble making your mortgage payments, if it's a short-term issue, you might have a short-term disruption in income or something like that, an injury, something that's affecting you temporarily. A forbearance might be an option where you might be able to get a halt on those payments temporarily. You're still going to have to pay them. They're just going to be added onto the back of your loan. But a counselor can help you work through that. If it's more of a long-term issue, disruption to income for a long-term basis, a loan modification is a good avenue to go through. That way, you adjust your mortgage payments, you lower your mortgage payments, you oftentimes extend the term of the loan. But if you have a documented hardship, there may be some flexibility there for you as well.
Okay, good advice. And we just have a couple more minutes here. So first of all, I want to thank each of the panelists for taking part in this discussion, for answering all these questions. And I want to throw it out just for just a few seconds from each of the panelists. Where can our viewers, where can the people following online go to get more information about you and about your organizations? John, let's start with you.
Thank you, first of all, Bruce, for facilitating this, and great host, and to thank you to NFCC for putting this on. Those who are looking for help in mortgage, you can go to becu.org to learn all you need to know about BECU and the services that we offer. Not only mortgages, but we do boat loans, home equity loans, car loans, whatever you need in the financial space, becu.org.
Okay, thanks, John, and thanks for being on the panel with us today.
You're
really
welcome.
Appreciate it. Rod, a little bit about Experian and how people can find out more.
Sure. And again, just to repeat John's thanks, Bruce, thank you for having me, and NFCC and all the great work you do. You can join us on our credit chats every week and every day on Periscope. Our credit chats Wednesdays, 2 o'clock Central, 3 Eastern, and on Periscope, 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern. You can learn more at experian.com/credit chat. And you can learn more about credit reports and credit scores at experian.com/credit education. So just visit experian.com and you can find your way there.
Right. Thanks, Rod. Yeah, just as sure as the sun rises every day, Credit Chat is on as well. So yep. Thanks, Rod. And Matt, just a few closing thoughts on the NFCC.
Sure. Well, thanks both of you for joining. This has been a great conversation, and really enjoyed it. The NFCC, nfcc.org, is a great resource for people. We have a lot of educational content on there to be able to answer your questions about purchasing a home, student loans. You can find, in fact, a number of resources at studentloanhelp.org if you have questions there. But really, what is great about our website is it helps you find a counselor to speak to, whether it's on the phone, or in person in your area. Chances are we've got a counseling agency near you. So come to nfcc.org. You can find answers to your questions and find an expert to talk to.
Thanks, Matt. And again, thanks to all of you on the panel. Thanks to those of you in the live audience. Sorry we didn't get a chance to get to all the questions, but I'm sure we'll be back and doing something like this again sometime soon. What I would encourage you to do, in addition to what Matt said about finding us online on the website, you can also follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at NFCC. Many of you in the audience are already following live on Twitter. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we also have a lot of really helpful blogs on our website. So when you go to nfcc.org, you can click on the blog link at the top of the page. And we have an Ask the Expert feature. So Ask an Expert is an opportunity for you to send in your questions. If you had any questions that weren't answered today, you can communicate directly with us through the Ask an Expert forum, and we can address your questions directly. So I encourage you to do that. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, take care.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.